This meeting is being recorded.
All right. So guys, we have also translation for Portuguese. All right. So I'm going to wait just a little bit because there are some people who speak Portuguese and are entering just right now. And I'm going to talk with them in Portuguese for a moment. Oi, pessoal! Pessoal do português, pessoal brasileiro, maravilhoso! Olha, se vocês precisam de tradução, a gente tem o Ayrton fazendo tradução maravilhosamente. É só vocês procurarem o botãozinho, tá bom? De intérprete, e aí vocês escolhem lá, português. Tá legal? Então, é isso aí, gente. Hi, everybody! So, every time that I have the opportunity to be around people like we see in this beautiful little Zoom squares, right? I feel so happy. I feel energized, deeply inspired. And today I have even more reasons to be like this because I'm here to present my friend. I'm here to present my brother, my soulmate, Manish Jain, one of the most incredible human beings that I know. And Manish is the global voice for the Ecoversities Movement, an emerging knowledge movement that is slowly building all over the world, though it often goes unnoticed by the media and most formal education systems. And this movement can be described as a network of ecoversities, which are people, organizations, and communities who are reclaiming knowledge systems and a cultural imaginary to restore and re-envision learning processes that are meaningful and relevant to the challenges of our times. So Manish, namaste oi, one more time. So you're
wonderful to see you, Sana.
Yes, you're here to talk about the future of education. And I invite you now to the floor and be this trickster, this magician that you are. And you can tell us whatever you want about this amazing subject. Okay? So
Yes,
you have the word.
wonderful. Okay, so I would like to invite everyone to all rub their hands together. Rub them, rub them. Rub them. And take a deep breath while you're rubbing them. Take a deep breath. All right. And let us sprinkle a little bit of magic and love and blessings and smiles to everybody who's here today. Just all your love and energy, good energy and wishes for everybody. I need it also because it's 9:30 in the evening. I had a long day, so your energy will come to me to help also wake me up for the session and energize me. So thank you. And so good to be with you today. I am just coming out of, I'm in visiting Delhi and I'm just coming out of a traffic jam. So it's let me just get my energy into the group. So I can start a little bit with my own journey a little bit, and I'll talk for maybe about half an hour, and I'd love to have a conversation, and hopefully it'll open up lots of reflections and questions with you. Is that good, Susanna, if we do it like that? Yeah, okay.
Perfect.
So, and I had sent you one slide. Later on, I'll ask you to post that as well for everybody, one photo. Yeah, great. Okay, so I was born in India, and I like to tell people that when I was 3 years old, I was kidnapped, and I was kidnapped by the American dream and taken to the United States. And I grew up in kind of the suburbs. I somehow survived the suburbs of the U.S. of Chicago, the boring, monotonous suburban life where you don't see any people on the roads and people don't know their neighbors. So somehow I survived that, and I went to a government school there. And when I was in school, several started having a lot of questions about the education system. I was considered a good student, but I never really liked sitting in class. I found it really boring and irrelevant. And I would always ask the teachers, how is this going to make the world better? How is this making me a better human being? How does this really, how is it practically usable to what I'm learning? And they would always say, oh, when you grow up, you'll understand. And to this day, I never have understood really most of how was it useful. I've forgotten most of it. And so, but when I was in school, I started having a lot of questions around, one, when there was two things I would want to share maybe. One was this kind of built-in structural injustice in the system. And so they had, in my school, they had 3 tracks, honors tracks, the average children, and then the poor problem children who are the troublemakers and the slow learners and all of that. And because I was a bit of a trickster, as you said, I was always bored in class. I was always making trouble. So I would be in the honors classes and then make some trouble. And the teacher would say, get out of the class, go to detention, go with those, problem children, those slow learners. And I started realizing that these children who were called slow learners were not at all nothing was wrong with them, except they weren't interested in studying. They were very creative, compassionate, caring, sensitive human beings, but they just didn't like to study. So they were then put in this category and labeled this. And it turned out that most of these kids were either brown or black kids, and they were from low income backgrounds. And so I saw that how this system, I started questioning, how is the system of injustice being perpetuated through the schooling system, and the second thing that was happening for me was, can you hear me fine? Is that okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. I'm trying
Okay.
to mute people who are making noises here.
Okay. Yeah, the second question, so I was trying to see, why do we start labeling all these children at such an early age? And, what's the benefit for that, or what's the, how does it really, and then so many children get labeled as failures later on. And I started questioning, like, why is it designed like that? The second thing I was really questioning I was always interested in doing things outside the classroom, like real world things. So I started my first business when I was 10 years old, and I did a lot of community service work. I would love to go out. I would love to organize a lot of things with my friends, different outings, adventure things. And I was always being told that you're wasting your time. You should be focusing on getting better grades, better marks. You should be focusing on getting, prepared for, bigger exams and all of that, because that's the only way to learn is by learning for the exam. And my parents would always be telling me this to, study more. And I was never interested in it. I was lucky that I could just go into class and just study like a little bit and do very well. I kind of figured out how to do that. But I was like, why are we, the real experiences of life, how come the education system is devaluing them? Why are they just telling us focus on a textbook and exams and classroom, and real life experiences, whether it was traveling or whether it was service, whether it was, spending time with grandparents, this was always seen as a waste of time. But over time, I started and I mean, these were also called extracurricular. But I started thinking that what was happening in this class was the extracurricular part, and the real learning was happening outside of the classroom. So such kinds of things, kept happening to me, and I started to, think I wanted to do something very good for the world. So I was really, that was my main motivation, was how can I serve the planet? How can I serve humanity? I was very inspired by Gandhi. So I kept trying to get involved in different things, activism kinds of activities when I was in university. When I thought of leaving university, when I graduated, I asked my friends, what should I do? How can I serve? And they all said, you should go into business, you should get money first, and then you can serve. And so I ended up as an investment banker on Wall Street. And I started, when I was there, I started questioning the whole global financial system. I worked on, many kind of privatization deals. At that time, many countries in the global south were starting to privatize in the early 90s, all of their companies. And I was like, why are these are all, the companies which are doing well, they're privatizing, and the companies that are doing poorly, they're keeping. It should be the other way around, like, why are they selling all this to foreign companies for cheap? And I started to notice how the economic system was set up to really, we were taught to have trickle down theory to, the rich people should get richer and it'll slowly come down to poor people, and the whole society will improve. But I saw how the system was really making rich people more and more filthy rich, and people in communities were becoming more and more poor through that process. And so this was all by design. It wasn't by accident. So I left banking, and I then decided I could serve. I asked my friends, and I thought I could serve by, becoming an academic. So I ended up at Harvard, and I thought I'll become academic and write books to influence people and things. And I started questioning there, the whole idea of who is educated actually. So we were told that, the world's problems are because of the poor and illiterate people in the world, and we should educate them. But I thought that, my grandmother never went to school, and I thought she's doing so many good things in her community, in the village. She's helping so many people. She's taking care of family. She has so much knowledge in healing and in food systems and in clothing and so many things she knows about. And so how can she be responsible for the world's problems? It's like the larger systems are there. We should be looking at them. But we were told that no, they have to be educated. And later on, I started seeing many, I worked with the World Bank and UN system, UNESCO, UNICEF. And I started seeing like World Bank reports, which used to say we need to educate people, spread education, because we need to create new markets, rural markets and things. And so I started having a lot more questions around really the damage that the education system was doing. Like I thought that the education system was something to help people and solve the world's problems. But the more I got into it, I started seeing that, maybe the problem is the education system. And that's the root problem, which is creating a lot of crises. And I came across at that time Gandhi's most radical book, which was called Hind Swaraj. So Hind means like India, and Swaraj means rule over the self or harmony of the self. And in that book, he's very critical of the education system and the larger, basically Western systems that there. And he goes so far as to call it a satanic system. And I was like, oh, that's really strong. Why is he calling it satanic? It's a very, very aggressive and strong word. And he was a lawyer, and I thought, he chose his word very carefully. But the more I thought about it, the more I also started agreeing that this system is satanic. And the one thing I would like to offer is, like a definition for that would be something like, any system that disconnects us, tries to disconnect us from our inner voice, from our deeper wisdom, from our culture, from nature, is satanic. And I felt that really with my own education processes, that the more I, succeeded in education, the higher up I got, the more people at Harvard met, the more people I started seeing that these people, the fundamental question of who am I and why, what is my deeper purpose and what is my connection to all of life, we start to lose those more and more. And I found my grandmother was actually more intelligent than my Harvard professors because she was much more in tune with these questions. So this disconnection of inner voice and our disconnection with the natural world, this disconnection with our imagination and creativity, um, um, this disconnection with our own like superpowers, our sense of our gifts, our talents, our deeper connections with each other. All of these things I started to notice, like the more educated, and I should say school educated one became, the more these disconnections become apparent. And there's a very famous saying I would like to share is, the white man and teacher who brought the pencil also brought the eraser. So the idea that, that's remind me, actually, there's one beautiful saying I also similar heard from Brazil, is the white man gave us mirrors and took our diamonds. So I think the same, this kind of thing, that we gain something, but the question of what did we lose with this education system? I'll slow down a little. Thank you, Beatrice, for that reminder. So what did we lose from the education system is a big question we should ask. And it's come to such a point where, I have argued that in 20 years from now, people will look at this system, what I call factory schooling. They will look back and say that this was one of the worst crimes against humanity, right up there with, Hitler's Germany and the concentration camps. What we are doing to children, labeling innocent children, disconnecting them from their, culture and roots, from the land, from their ancestors, from their from so many, from their bodies, from their hearts, all of this. And this is not by accident. What I started to realize, that this is all by design, that it's designed to do this. The system is designed to make us want to all the time feel scarcity and fear. Like if we think about it, all of our, ancestors, they knew how to grow food. They knew how to make their own clothes. They knew how to make their own houses. They knew how to cook. We have all forgotten how to do these things. It's not part of our education system. So we become totally dependent on the money system. We've forgotten how to live without money. So I think this is what I would say. This is our predicament. One other thing I would say about where we're at is I see three crises right now which are emerging. Three crises in the sense that if these continue to grow, they could lead to societal breakdown, societal collapse. So one is the unemployment situation. So what the education system is doing is actually manufacturing unemployable people. People come out, they don't know what they want to do. They don't have a sense of purpose. They don't have a sense of intrinsic motivation. They don't have a sense of skills, real skills to do anything. And so in India, actually, I don't know if you heard, but our own government is predicting that in the next 20 years, there will be 180 million unemployed educated youth. 180 million. It's like astonishing. It's bigger than most countries. And all of these youth are unemployed. They're looking for jobs. And they also want iPhones. They also want Mercedes. They also want all of these luxury items. So where does that end up? That means, we can see more and more crime happening to get these things. The second major crisis point, I think, and we're seeing is depression. A lot of depression, young people going into depression and anxiety. And, I don't know if you heard in Japan, for example, there's this phenomena that is growing called hikikomori. And these are people, they don't want to come out of their room. They don't want to interact with, I know for Brazilians and Indians, it's a very strange thing to hear, but they want to just stay in their room all day. They'll just communicate via social, by WhatsApp, or they'll only order food through, the internet. They just don't want to interact with people. So they're in such deep depression, such deep anti-socialization. So I think this is another thing we see, a combination of the schooling system and the kinds of technologies that are coming up. And in India, we have even some cities which have now been named suicide cities, because the pressure, academic pressure for children is so high there that children are committing suicide quite frequently. And the third thing, obviously, many of you know, is the whole ecological crisis. So the more, obviously, climate change, but also, water is a crisis around the world. Food is becoming a crisis. Many other kinds of things related to ecology, loss of wildlife, loss of marine life, many things. And so this kind of ecological crisis is, I would also link to the education system, that, many people who are coming out of schools have lost the connection to their rivers, to their ecosystems. They'll know about, Washington, D.C. and Paris and what's happening there, but they don't know their local forests anymore. They don't know their mountains, their rivers, their, different species in their area. So many things are being lost. So I think these three crises are something that we need to really think very deeply about. Any person working in education, I ask them, I value and honor your effort, but how do you see these three crises? They're all growing and related to the education system, and they have huge impact, potential implications for society. This all being said, I would like to now share what's exciting to me. We're living in a very exciting time because of these crises, there's an opportunity to reimagine many things, including education. And I've been around, in this work for about 30 years, and I see a real opening and interest now in people and saying, yes, we need to reimagine things. We have to look at things very differently. And so what I would like to share maybe is a few of the exciting things that I'm involved in and I see happening around India and around the world, which has real chance to help us reimagine education. So the first thing I would like to offer in that is what we call, there are many, I don't know if you've heard of Bhutan. Bhutan came out with something called gross national happiness. So what they basically, this tiny country, there's only 700,000 people in Bhutan. And what they basically said to, US and Europe is like, you guys have all the fancy technologies, you guys have all the big armies, you guys have all the money, financial wealth you've accumulated, but are you guys really happy? So they started questioning the whole development paradigm, this whole idea of what, who is developed and who is developing and who is underdeveloped. Brazil and India were called developing, and we were all said we should try to catch up with the US, and someday we can also be developed, right? But Bhutan, tiny Bhutan, started questioning this. Like, what does it mean if we catch up? What are we going to really achieve by catching up? You know, why do we want to compete? It reminds me of there was a story. You all heard the story of the tortoise and the rabbit, the hare, the turtle and the hare, the race they had, and so I once heard an interview with the rabbit. So somebody was asking him, "Hey, you slept and you fell asleep and you lost the race. You know, you were running too fast." And he said, "No, it wasn't like that. It's like when I was sleeping, I had a dream. And in that dream, I started asking myself, why am I running this race? Like, who am I trying to impress? What am I going to get by running this race?" And in my dream, I started thinking, you know, what makes me happy? It's like hanging out, playing in the nature, drinking from the water, stream, really connecting with my friends and my family. That gives me happiness, not running this race like a rat, you know, like, so I think Bhutan started questioning, and all over South America, the question of when we veer. I think this fundamental thing of what is the good life? This is again a question. So I think the world is waking up to this idea the American dream is not a good dream. It's actually a nightmare for the planet. It's a nightmare for the Americans. They're the most depressed and unhappy people on the planet. And so it's a good time for us to start even questioning what direction we want to go to as a society. What does development mean for us? What does it mean to be developed? Is it having a big house and a car and a big army, or is it something else that we want to say is real development? So I think that fundamental question, because we were all told, oh, get a job and then you'll get happiness. But I think many of us probably in this call have realized that that is not really the case. You know, like getting a fat job, fat paid salary doesn't necessarily mean you're happier. And so I think this whole set of questions is very fundamental to reimagining education and the future of education, because it opens up us more possibilities to think that really, what is the purpose of our lives? Why are we here, you know, and who are we? So I think this is one of the exciting parts. In my own university, Swaraj University, which we started about 12 years ago, this is a very fundamental question for us, you know, and much of it is tied to the idea of unlearning. So we were all conditioned to believe, you know, this lifestyle, this way of doing things is what's going to give us happiness, is what's going to make for a better society. If everyone consumes like Americans, we'll all have a better society. We were told that, you know, money is the only thing that you need to be happy. I don't know if you remember, from some of you from the 80s, the whole mantra, greed is good. That was, I grew up on that, you know, the movie Wall Street, greed is good. So many of these things, I would say that we need to unlearn, we need to question the whole scarcity mindset that we have, you know, that there's not enough, we need more to be happier. You know, in India, I like to say that about 5,000 years ago, people realized something very profound in Indian philosophy, which was that having more and more stuff is not going to give us more and more happiness. So all over the world, we're seeing this question around it. I think in Japan and East Asia, there's a whole movement for decluttering our lives. Less, you know, with the idea that having less is actually more. That you are more happy when you have less things. Or in Europe, they're talking about degrowth. So I think decluttering, getting rid of stuff, having less and less stuff. So this is a major trend, which I think is happening and is going to reshape how we look at education. The second thing is what I call a major shift around right now. Why do you go to school? Most people at the end, actually, I would argue nobody goes to school or university to really learn anything. The primary purpose of going to school is to get a degree. And why do you need a degree? Because you can get a good package. So that's been the main. Degree is the access point to getting a good job or a good package or a position in the government. You need a degree. But what we see is that there's a new thing happening, is that there are many, there's a whole movement of what we call micro-credentialing. Micro-credentialing, I can type it here, which means there are certain things called badges. So you can see this, that um, there is, I'm just typing it, sorry, credentialing, huh? So like a badge system. So you can learn something very specific. This is very common in the software field. You go and learn a software like Agile, and you can start working right away. You don't need to do a 4-year degree, or you don't need to have a high school degree even. If you have this skill, people are willing to start hiring you, because a lot of employers have realized that schooling has nothing to do with what you do on the job. If we all think about it, most of what we do, the work we do, we learned while we were on the job. 90% probably is from real world experience, from working. You start working and you start to learn how to do things. Most employers want you to, they tell you that what you learn has actually nothing to do with the real world. Forget and start to really learn how to do things in a way that actually is very practical and makes sense. So I think this idea that micro credentials and also portfolios, that you can get many online portfolios. People can start documenting in very beautiful, simple ways what they've been learning practically. And there's many ways you can, improve your storytelling around what you're learning. And more employers are open to taking portfolios. We have in our university, we have a campaign called Healing Ourselves from the Diploma Disease. Healing ourselves from the diploma disease. So having it, looking at only people who have degrees and diplomas is becoming a disease. It's so much of a disease that in India, most of the people actually want a degree because they want it for marriage potential, marriage possibilities. That's why people want the degrees, that we can maybe get a better marriage partner. They realize that the degree is nothing. It really doesn't have any big value, particularly those people who have their own businesses, but they still go for it because they think this will help them get a better marriage partner. So what we have tried to do is we've lined up about 1,000 companies and NGO, nonprofit organizations, and social movements. And let's say, can we remove the requirement for a degree from your hiring process? Are you open to taking people without degrees, and maybe they can show you their portfolios or their micro credentials, their badges? And we're finding very good receptivity from employers who are saying, yes, we're willing to look at all of these things. We're willing to look beyond, because they are also, if you see most companies, they are actually doing their own training programs. They hire you and then retrain you. So they're like, if we have to, why would we hire somebody with a, master's degree when we can hire somebody with a 10th grade certificate and we can train that person to do the same job, and so there's more and more receptivity from that for people to say, okay, if people have real experiences, that's what really matters. It's not how well you do on an exam that matters for how well you do in the world. So I think there's a great awakening for this kind of process. The third thing I would like to share is what we call livelihoods. Can you bring up that that poster, Susanna? So what I would differentiate, I don't know how they're going to translate.
I'm going to put it, but just a little bit.
I'll keep talking. So I would differentiate or offer this distinction between deadlyhoods and livelihoods. I don't know how they're going to translate this into Brasileiro, but deadlyhoods are those careers which destroy the human spirit, which destroy community life, and which destroy the ecosystems, our local ecosystems. And most of the careers that the university system is training us for are deadlyhoods. Whether it's engineering, it's mainly for extraction-based economy. Financing, business is to finance the extraction. Lawyers are to protect all of those companies who are extracting and stealing from the earth. Psychologists are there for selling children, targeting children and selling them all kinds of consumer stuff that they don't need. So all of these different professions that we're seeing, I can trace any of them and tell you how that most of them are deadlyhood professions. And so we want young people, we're offering them this lens to say, are you working in a deadlyhood or in a livelihood? Start to think about that. And what we mean by a livelihood is, what are those careers that make your spirit come alive? What are those careers that make your community come alive again and rebuild community? And what are those careers that regenerate your ecosystems and make them come alive again? And so we've made a list of more than 50 livelihoods. And what's a bit really interesting is that most universities don't have anything to do with any courses for livelihoods. They have a lot of things for deadlihoods, but they don't have a lot of careers for livelihoods. How to really regenerate life in the planet. So I would like to offer this also. We made this as part of Ecoversities. I'll tell you more about that, but we made this little diagram. And many of you, I'm sure, have seen the Japanese Ikigai, which has the 4 concentric circles of, what is, what are you good at? What do you love doing? What the world needs, and what you can get paid for, basically. So this is an extension to the Ikigai, and it's around livelihoods. And what we would offer are 4 questions, which is needed for the well-being of the planet today. And so, am I doing work that gives me joy and meaning? I think this is the first fundamental thing. And the reason was that, again, I said that unemployment is rising, but maybe what's worse is the people who have jobs. There are so many studies have been done which are saying, 70 to 80% of people hate their jobs. And I find that more and more young people who we work with are saying that we don't want to do this stupid job anymore. We don't care how much money you give us. We don't want to do stupid jobs. There was a book that came out called Bullshit Jobs. I would recommend you have a look at that. Bullshit Jobs. The only title is the problem. I didn't like the title because actually in India, we realized that bullshit is very good. Cow shit is very good for the soil. Cow shit is something useful. And these jobs that are describing are actually something that are totally useless jobs for the planet. So we should rename it and not call it bullshit, but something else, because, and this is part of unlearning. So many of the metaphors we've learned, we think bullshit is a bad thing, but bullshit is one of the most, it probably for me is the most powerful symbol of a regenerative movement. Because and where I live, we speak the language of Mevardi. There's a saying, wherever you find cow dung or bullshit dung, that's where you'll find your bread. That's where you'll find life. And so this is how you regenerate soil. This is how you regenerate. This is how we use it for natural building material. This is we use it for natural cooking fuel. So many things. So actually, this word bullshit we have to reclaim, I think, just as an aside. But anyways, so am I doing, if you ask people, is your job actually really making the world a better place? I would say less than 1% people would say, actually, my job that I'm doing is actually making the world a better place or giving me a deeper sense of meaning and purpose in life. So this is the fundamental question. And I find more and more young people are excited to ask this question and really engage with this question. The second thing is, am I doing work that replenishes various forms of real wealth, such as our health, our social bonds and connections, our natural ecosystems, our local knowledge systems, so many things. So what is real wealth? I think this is one of the major questions of our time. We have been flooded with this fake wealth of the money system. Many of my friends and very big thinkers talk about money as an energy. Yes, I agree it's an energy, but it's an energy that is like a vampire energy. It sucks your sense of abundance. It sucks out your sense of well-being. And the strange thing is, with real wealth, you would feel like, I have enough. I'm ready to share with others. But with money, you always feel like, I don't have enough. I'm feeling scarcity all the time. And this is, when I was in Wall Street, this is something that really, really struck me deeply to the core, shook me. Was like, how do these billionaires that I'm encountering, how come they're still so scared and feeling scarcity? And so many people I see in Brazil and India who are homeless, sitting on the street, they're still living in abundance. They're still willing to share whatever they have with others. So something is really, pointing that we need to reimagine wealth in a very fundamental way and open up conversations around that, and we start to regenerate. So the more that we build our social connections, our sense of trust, our sense of mutual care, our sense of compassion, our own inner resilience, our sense of our own ecosystems, where we have, again, forests and clean water bodies, and healthy, good food. The more we have this, the more we will have a sense of abundance within us. And with that sense of abundance, we can start to reimagine these systems in very much more deeper and profound ways. Right now, what I see, many of my international colleagues are approaching everything from fear and scarcity. So, and that then leads to greed, a desire to dominate the planet, dominate others, a sense of aggression, militarism, all of these things. So the key is, if I start doing things that regenerate real wealth, I can start to build the seeds of a new paradigm. The third component in this is, am I doing work that is changing the rules and policies to benefit communities rather than global corporations? So I think this is what we need to ask, because as we know today, most of our governments have become in the back pockets of the global corporations, and they are shaping all the policies, all the subsidies, all the taxes, all the schemes that are being offered to people. So we need, as communities, and I'm so inspired by Brazil's participatory budgeting, which is an example of that. How do communities reclaim power over their own budgets, over their own decision making of how money is being spent? The fourth area is, am I doing work that helps society go beyond an extractivist military economy, what I would call a taker culture, a worldview that centralizes human beings over all of life? Only now, because of the, again, beautiful work and friends in Latin America, South America, are we talking about the rights of Mother Earth, rights of Mother Nature, that these are beings, these are intelligent beings, and we have to shift. And this is where I think India and Brazil really have a very profound, deep understanding of life, the indigenous worldviews. How do we start to recenter those worldviews and move out of a violent anthropocentric worldview? I think we have to really put this lens on all of our work, and we can start to build a different story, what many of my friends are calling a ancient new story, a new ancient story, right? That this is but unless we change this fundamental myth we've all been fed, survival of the fittest, human beings are inherently competitive, human beings are inherently greedy. This, we know, more and more research is coming out that this is a lie. These are lies that we've been fed, and that we can start to change through our work the narratives of these things, and open up that that it's not the problem of the human being, it's a problem of the design of the systems, which many of you know. For example, one of my brothers in Brazil, many of you know him, Edgar Gouveia. Yes, put your thumbs up, Edgar. He's my brother, so one of my soul brothers. So he shared with me many years ago, this, brought to my awareness musical chairs. All of you have played musical chairs, I think. Anyone who's gone to school. What does musical chairs teach us? Teach a child that there's only one chair. You have to fight for the chair. This is scarcity in the world. You can kick or, bite your friend just to grab the chair. Do anything for that chair, And this scarcity is what children grow up with from the education system. And simply, if we change the rule of the game, what if we say that we can share chairs? We don't have to fight for the chair. A whole different game starts to emerge, a whole different paradigm of how human beings can reorganize themselves in harmony, in what we call Swaraj in India, in harmony with the rest of the other intelligent beings that inhabit this planet with us. So I think this is one of the major things, is we need to redefine the whole idea of job, career, and shift from deadlyhood to a livelihood. And this will really help, one of the major forces to really reshape the future of education. And the last thing I want to offer is that there is a growing movement, which I'm part of, called the Ecoversities Movement. So in where I live, in Udaipur in India, we have many ecoversities that have come up, which I've been part of. One is Swaraj University, which is for youth. And it's the only university which we don't require any degree or diploma to design or to join. We also have the jail university, where we are reimagining the prison system as a university, as a place for higher learning, where people can connect to their deeper purpose and their deeper meaning for life, and see how to manifest, to get the skills to how to manifest it in the world. We also have the Grandmothers University. So the ancient wisdom, indigenous wisdom of our grandmothers, of our elders, how do we reconnect to those and listen to those voices? Like, again, I told you the school system taught me that my grandmother was illiterate and stupid. I had to go through much unlearning to realize that this is not the case. The school taught me that the indigenous people of our country are primitive and backwards and stupid, and they don't know anything. I had to unlearn all of these things. And so, and because of the indigenous people, we also have started the Forestversity, where the guru is the forest. What is the forest is our teacher, and we can learn. And we also have the Riverversity. What if the river becomes the source of our knowledge? We also have the Farmversity, that all of the soil and the plants can become our gurus and the teachers. And we want to restore the farmer's dignity, that the farmer, I tell people, if you want to meet God, go meet a farmer, because they are the ones who are connected to feeding us and growing, and they're connected to the regenerative capacity of nature, and so we have Farmer University, where we recognize all the indigenous farmers, and they are the real teachers. They know how, many of you, I think, know about permaculture. So one of my friends in the Philippines, she started introducing this idea of the zero principle, that the indigenous knowledge is the first principle, is the beginning of permaculture. So we have to go to the indigenous. We don't need to go to permaculture teachers and for PDC certification. We need to go back to the indigenous people to understand how to live in harmony. So the whole Ecoversities is a movement. And the beautiful thing is that any group, any community, if you have 5 friends, you can start your own Ecoversity. we have, so all over the world, we have ecoversities which are emerging. People are forming their own. We don't need the government's approval for our ecoversities. We need communities to get involved and reclaim their own local knowledge systems, their own local economies. We need to rebuild. And what I'll just end with, Gandhi shared something very profound called the 4 H's, that real holistic education starts when we reconnect our head, our hands, our hearts, and our home. And so Ecoversities is really diving deep into pedagogies which can reconnect us to the 4 H's. So I will stop here, but I think this is going to be a major movement for people reclaiming their knowledge systems all over the planet, and very critical to the future of education. And I'll end here, and I'd love to hear what's alive for you from what I've shared. Thank you so much, Susanna, and so many friends out there. I just looked into, while I was speaking, to so many friends. I'm so glad that you could be with you. Big kisses for all of you.
Yeah, that's been great. So Manish, there is a person here, Valeria. Valeria would like us to do a pinakari right now, right? So I will invite everybody here just to be in silence for a moment, okay? And as soon as you listen to this bell. Well, can we return? Yeah. So nice to listen everything that you have to say, Manish. Valeria was also worried about Ayrton. She said that you were speaking so fast. You were giving a hard time to our translator.
Yes, I'm so sorry about that. So sorry about that. I just said,
I know that you try, but you are so
usually I need a full day.
enthusiastic about what you have to say. Yeah, and you and you
Yeah,
go.
and I usually need more time. You know that, Susanna. You're giving me so little time. So yes.
I would like to say something if I can. That's a joke, as John Croft said, that now that we've done a pinakari, you have to say the all your speech again after pinakari. You will say it in another way, and
Yes.
maybe it will be slower. Maybe it will be more from the heart. Maybe, but
Yeah.
it was great. I took so many notes. Thank you very much. It's very inspiring. I'm doing a European project on leadership with dragon dreaming and process work and art of hosting and collaborative methodologies all together. And it's called a very complicated name, like leadership for the environmental, how's it in English? Like change in the blue economy. And it's like, this is very inspiring what you said for the educations, for the skills that are needed in connection with what is happening in ourselves, in our relationships, and in the world, like Rabindranath Tagore says. So I just want to thank you again very much. I don't really have a question. For me, the question would be, well, yeah, I do have a question. If I ask myself, it will be something like, how can we start reconnecting without having this social activism so violently activated and more from the spiritual activism? You know, how can we just slow down and connect with her through deep ecology, through so many things that dragon dreaming has in common, and change this education system, this job system, now this ecosystem? Thank you. That's my question. Thank you.
Paulo, por favor.
Are we listening to a few? Or?
Sorry. I believe it's better for Manish first to answer Bea, right? And then Paulo will go on.
No, maybe I would love to hear people. I'm just taking notes, and then I can share something. But let's give time, because we have about half an hour. I would really love to hear what people are reflecting on, and how they're relating to what I shared. It would be, let's listen to at least 3-4 more people, and then I can try to respond to some things. Yeah.
Okay. So Paulo.
Olá, gratidão pela oportunidade. Estou muito feliz de estar aqui com vocês. Queria dizer que aqui no Brasil nós estamos também construindo um projeto de uma universidade indígena. Temos numa aldeia Craô, e desse projeto nasceu o sonho da gente construir uma universidade dos povos indígenas aqui no Cerrado. Mas um desafio que a gente tem é que os indígenas também querem essa formação acadêmica, eles se espelham no nosso modelo. E quando eu falo que vai ser uma universidade livre, que a gente não quer esse modelo de educação, existe também um estranhamento. E eu queria saber, nas experiências de vocês, como é que vocês estão lidando com isso, até porque também os povos indígenas também já estão muito colonizados. Como é que vocês lidam com isso?
Manish, Paulo is saying that he is helping to create an Ecoversity in Brazil, an indigenous university, an indigenous free university. And one of the challenges he faces is that even indigenous people, because of the long time of colonization, they also want academic degrees. And they feel that it's strange when Paulo talks to them that they don't need this, that they have their own wisdom. And he wants to know how to deal with this challenge. How have you dealt with that, if you have encountered this problem before? And this is what he wants to know. Now, please, Proença, do you want to talk too? Then after the three of you, Manish is going to answer everybody.
Yeah, sure. So, é melhor em português ou inglês? Tanto faz? Só para...
Whatever you like.
Whatever I like, okay. I'm going to train my English then, okay? So, I consider myself to be an activist towards education here in Brazil, but there's a dilemma that I found that I talked with some colleagues, and we don't know how to deal with this. That has to do with the role of exams. So you talked a little bit about certifications and so on. And the thing is, while the system still gives so much value to exams and certifications, it's really hard to try to teach, or at least build alternative schools that don't provide also for this, right? Because it's a sort of privilege, maybe we can say, in a system in which it really is easier to get a job and so on, if you have a certificate, to just put it aside. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but just to give one example, if you take Waldorf schools that I think it's a very interesting example. I don't know what your opinion is about them, but they have more art, right, and sports, and I think a deeper connection with yourself. If I ever have children, I think I would like to put them in a school of this type, because I really think that things like this are more important than just content. Right, I agree with you when you call school an extracurricular activity. I think the same. But just to say that these Waldorf schools, sometimes they some students don't really get the same choice than others when they are going through these big exams, and there is also a question of who are the children that go there, because usually there are children that already have money, right? But yeah, that's the thing. Exams, certifications, privilege, inequality, everything is in my question. So whatever you like to add, I will be very happy. Thank you, Manish.
Yeah, so I think it's similar to what was it, who just spoke? Paulo also had a similar question, I think. So so in terms of what Beatrice was saying, I think you're absolutely right. So this whole idea of slowing down has many dimensions, right? And I think that's but the root of that, I would say, is, you know, you could say indigenous wisdom traditions. So all of the spiritual traditions will invite us into the space. And oftentimes when we're looking at leadership, social change process, all of those, activism, we don't look at these traditional wisdom wisdom traditions that we have. So I totally am with you. But I think that those need to be a little bit, so today it's not only slowing down, it's also, we talk about in our university, we need to unplug from the technology to replug into ourselves again, so disconnecting us from ourselves and do, techno fasting, if you've heard of that, is a new kind of thing we have to bring in to our work. Also, I think the spiritual traditions, at least I'm from a tradition called Jainism, and one of the most powerful ideas on nonviolence came from Jainism. But the two things I would like to offer, so one is so many of these things we're doing, whether it's patenting things or copywriting things or branding things or thinking we're owners of the land or owners of anything, our spiritual tradition actually cuts through and tries to question that whole idea. What is this whole idea of ownership? Because the whole modern system is built on this idea that you can own something, that you can own land, you can own animals, you can own your partner. So what does it mean to start to come out of that tradition of ownership? I think that's one of the things in our spiritual work that really excites me. And the other thing is the kind of I didn't mention one project that we are also supporting is called Complexity University. So how do we work on complex challenges of our time? And so one of the things that we've put into that is that, can we build platforms which are transcend ideology, which go beyond left versus right, which go beyond Marxist versus capitalist, which go beyond men versus women, which go beyond government versus NGO, whatever those dichotomies we've created. How do we go beyond those and create a platform to collaborate together? Maybe even goes beyond words, because a lot of the words we use trigger each other. So can we create a platform that builds from the heart, is what you were saying, and invites people into a different kind of space of connection and deep connection and collaboration, I think. And that is a spiritual work. I think it's even go beyond, Christian versus Muslim versus indigenous, whatever those things are. Can we go into a different space? What Rumi, the poet Rumi, poet philosopher, said, there's a space beyond right and wrong. There's a field beyond right and wrong. I would like to meet you there. So I think that is the kind of work now of our spirituality that is really essential for our times. So I can talk more about that, but just offering a little bit of thoughts and to what you were saying. The other thing is, I think, we are in a, so I want to be, say something very controversial, which I know Brazilians may not like, but I'll say it with a full amount of love. So I had the great privilege to meet Paulo Freire in 1993. I met him. He was visiting the U.S. And at that time I was super inspired by Freire, and I think he really made a fantastic contribution to the world. But I think the time has really come to go beyond Freire, because a couple of things have become very clear. Is that it's not a question of capitalism versus communism. In India, we talk about these days that these are two sides of the same coin. They're both built on the extractivist military system. And so we must move beyond those things. We can't just say that, communism is better than capitalism, and so we should go for that. They're basically the same game. And so I think, and the second thing I would say, is that the other thing that's been clear is that people don't, conscientization, what Freire offered, kind of starts with this idea that people don't have knowledge and wisdom, and they need to be politically conscientized into a certain ideology. And that, if you go into Freire's work, for example, he would never really respect that there is some indigenous knowledge and indigenous wisdom. The indigenous people have their own governance systems, their own understanding of how to be in harmony with life. So I think that, what we're trying to offer is, and so what Freire and many people who are inspired by Freire, including myself at a certain point, said that let us try to educate people to beat the system. And something is that I started to realize from my grandmother's university, being with my own village grandmother, is there's a saying: if you beat them at their own game, you will have lost everything. So if you beat them at their game, you will lose everything, basically. And so the question that we have to go into the game and beat them and try to get indigenous people into the government, indigenous people into corporations, indigenous people or Black people or oppressed people into all of these systems. I think what we're learning from like 30, 40 years of these efforts is when they go in, they become part of the system and they become agents of the system. And what's needed is that we can start to reimagine the systems. And I would argue that in Brazil and India and a few other places in the world are super well suited for this project of reimagining. I found, the only other place than India where I found deep spiritual connection is Brazil, and deep openness to the ideas that I'm sharing is in Brazil. It's very strange. And only people who can match my hugging are the Brazilians. So, but I'm saying that the thing is that not, what we've been trying to sell people, it's like, oh, we'll give you a few tickets and you can get into the game and then you can get a piece of the pie. And that game is no longer sufficient for the planet. We're realizing what I'm saying, that it's just giving out a few pieces of the pie to a few more people. We are still headed towards total societal collapse and breakdown. So we need to reimagine the game. And that's a very different invitation. That's an invitation when I've given to indigenous people and to different people from marginalized backgrounds. They get excited when I tell them that you have the knowledge and the skills to guide and lead us for a new game. There's a different kind of energy and excitement. So I think that's the invitation that I would offer. And, what I'm saying is many of my brothers and sisters from the left, what did they say is that, okay, we know that the university and degrees, this is like a key. It's a key to enter the, when I went to Harvard, my professors told me nobody comes to Harvard to learn anything. You don't need Harvard to learn anything. People come to Harvard because it's a key to the seat with the big boys. You get to sit with the old white boys. You get elite access. That's why you go to places like Harvard. And so what you're trying to promise is to people, oh, you can get a seat too. We can give you a lottery ticket. And maybe you'll get there. You'll get a job in that system. But what I'm saying is that understanding is that job is going to be a deadlyhood. By doing that job, at the end of the day, you'll be exploiting your own community and many others like that. And so what I'm offering is a way that we can start to create our own universities, reclaim our own dignity, and we can tell people we don't need your degrees. Even if people want a job, let us break down the doors. Let's not just give a few keys to the door. Let us think of a game where we break down the doors and say that, we want to value experiential knowledge. We want to value spiritual wisdom. We want to be having people who have real skills who can serve their communities. This is a kind of education system we want to build. But what I want to offer, the reason I raised Freire is because Freire made a very grave mistake. He made the mistake to offer that you can fix the system. And what I'm trying to say is that the system, an operating system like on your computer, if the operating system is corrupt, there's nothing you can install. Whatever software you want to install on it, it's going to keep corrupting everything. And so what I'm inviting us is to let us start to think of a whole new game. And I think that we will find, my experience is that many people from indigenous communities, Black communities, low-income communities, they're excited because they know the game is screwing them. It's not so hard to understand that the game is screwing you and your community. So I think what is exciting now is to say that we can create a new game together and we can really honor, and that game starts by honoring our own gifts, our own knowledge, our own relationships, our ancestors, that we can create a space where we can talk about our emotions. We can talk about we can laugh together, we can cry together, we can build together. This is the kind of new education models we need to create, but it won't happen by trying to fix the existing models. And other thing I want to say is that I have a 20-year-old daughter, and I had the choice to send her to Waldorf and to many alternative schools. And I decided not to send her to any. I decided to unschool her. Unschool her means she never went to school. She never saw a textbook. She never took an exam in her life. And I think that has been one of the best decisions my wife and I have made in the world. And the reason is that, see, alternative schools are slightly better than private schools or factory schools. They are definitely, yes, a bit better, but they're not a real model. That's why the reason I don't talk about them, because they're only for rich people. So unless we can design a model that works for everybody and that everyone can have access to, I don't think it's worth wasting our time to keep talking about those models. And the reason I say that is because in India, our philosophy, spiritual philosophy, was that learning, I wouldn't say education, learning is part of our spiritual and evolutionary growth. You cannot charge money for learning. It is criminal to charge money for learning. And so all the things that Waldorf is inviting to, those things are already in communities. In favelas, you'll find already the things that Waldorf is on. Many people know how to do. In forests, you already know that people know. So let us take those people and revalorize their knowledge rather than steal their knowledge and repackage it as something else, which is happening in Waldorf. It's happening in permaculture. It's happening in art of hosting. These are all, I'm saying very honestly, because I love all these people. They're all dear friends of mine. I've been in last 20 years relationship with all of these people. But I think that we need to start reimagining even these things, because the real source, we're not going to source. Ultimately, these are all just packages, weekend packages, still pills that we think we can eat and we'll find a solution. And what I'm inviting us through Ecoversities, let us go back to the source of wisdom, source of spirit, source of knowledge. Let us go there and we might start to find some courage to create something different.
Okay, Manish, I think Liz had a question. Didn't you, Liz?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Manish, for your sharing here in the Confestival.
Hey, Liz, so good to see you.
Yes, I was a little bit later, I'm sorry. But it's good to have you here in the Confestival with your thoughts, with your heart and passion. Well, actually, you also have said now what I will ask, how we can include the diversity. Now, what we have seen here in Brazil, for example, is the indigenous people go to university to become a doctor. They go back for the people to be a doctor there with all of their knowledge. Because they come here and learn also in the traditional knowledge in medicine. And it has been a really interesting experience also for here, the university, which people I have contact in university because they bring their wisdom there, but they back to university because any doctor wants to go for the indigenous community. And you already mentioned that. When you taught what you just finished now, taught me to reflect about the knowledge, like ancient knowledge, the books, the scientific knowledge, which is also quite important. Taught me to say, wow, we don't need study, but in reality also there is so much wisdom on that. There is so much good knowledge, what comes from the science, for example, and we can also drink in this source too.
Are you asking me or are you telling me?
It's a reflection because I love to study. I love to study, and when I hear and we say, like I hear some comments here coming my well, but then we forget everything and we don't need to read books anymore. I would like to reflect about that.
Yeah, so let me share, can I share you a very interesting saying? Is that part of our modern crisis is that we're confusing the maps for the terrain.
Yeah.
Right? This is so it's not saying we don't read me that literally we shouldn't read books or anything, but we should understand the deep confusion. The book is an abstraction, right? Life is much more rich. The land is much more rich. And what is happening is we are valuing people who read books more than people who read the soil, who read the forest. This is the fundamental crisis we're facing. So it's not that books are there. Doctors, the question you have to ask, Liz, is that what comes with a doctor?
Of course.
What comes along when the doctor goes back to the village? What all comes with that doctor? You have to get a hospital. You need to bring roads. You need to build highways. You need to bring, nurses from the city. You need to bring all kinds of things. And ultimately, behind all of that, you bring bulldozers. You need the pharmaceutical companies. You need everything there. Then that doctor has something, that Western educated doctor, without this huge infrastructure, which is incredibly destructive, for life, there's no doctor. And the simple thing, the traditions that all of us, indigenous traditions, was the one who prevents. The doctor was not somebody who gives medicine. The doctor was who prevents people from getting ill. But the systems we've all created are more and more people are getting ill. The industrial lifestyle, somehow I would say invite you to think about how the doctor is connected to the cutting down of the Amazon. That's interesting one, a little bit of systems thinking work. And you'll start to see that these are all interconnected. Nothing comes for free with this industrial system, And so, yes, they're going, but the amount of sicknesses, why are they getting more sick? Because industrial sugar has come into all of our diets, for example. Whereas indigenous people never ate sugar. But so many of the problems are coming because of that, So I think, and the thing is, the science you're talking about, the roots, if you go into the philosophical roots of science, modern science, it is to dominate nature. It is to dominate human beings and dominate nature. Go and look at the roots, because that's what all the scientists are doing. It's fragmented domination. How do we keep taking from nature? How do we control nature? All the work on, like, let's say, genetic work, all the work on GM food is to dominate nature. Genetically modified. I think Brazil has a lot of it, right? All of that is coming out. So where is the wisdom in that science system that's saying that, no, we shouldn't be dominating nature, right? So all of these, we can look at, I would give you the metaphor of a bodybuilder who takes steroids. So what is the bodybuilder who takes steroids? At first, the body looks really big and strong and like Arnold Schwarzenegger. But what's happening inside? All of the organs are rotting. All of the breakdown is happening. And so whatever claims you're saying science has made, I would argue that we're now seeing all the negative impact. Science has produced nuclear bombs that are bombing and killing people. Science has produced genetically modified food, pesticides, which are destroying our soils. Science has produced plastic, which is clogging our ocean bodies, river bodies, water bodies. Where is the wisdom? That's what I'm asking. Otherwise, yeah, these are all fantastic. And yet simple things like clean drinking water, science is not able to provide to everybody clean drinking water for all. So it's not saying that. I think that knowledge is coming in a very fragmented way. The knowledge is coming without wisdom and spiritual tradition. The knowledge is telling us, scientific knowledge is telling us the rest of nature is only for extraction and consumption. Very few scientists today recognize that nature is alive and intelligent, that the mountains are alive, that this is what indigenous people all over the world have been knowing for millions of years. Only now a few scientists, that trees can communicate through mycelium network. Now they're like, oh, wow, there's communication systems. So I'm saying that it's still going to take a long time for science to catch up. And if we need to deal with the problems, major problems facing the planet, science is not going to be able to do it. We'll need other forms of knowledge to come up. And the best scientists are ones who realize that and are coming on board. Like Antonio Nobre, who's in Brazil, is one of the best scientists I've met in the world, because he understands that a new dialogue has to start between Western science and indigenous knowledge and science. And that's the way forward only, I think.
Yeah, I think we could continue this conversation for years. Yes. But do you know, but the ancient knowledge has so many important knowledge. I think also wisdom. What in the ancient knowledge I found is when you don't put in practice what we learn, we become arrogant.
Yes.
And I think it connects with what you are talking.
Yes.
Because
what actually is happening is the modern education, you know, everything, all knowledge was contextualized.
Yes,
was place-based, based on, you know, the soil. Even in a field, there might be many kinds of soil. People knew that, and they would grow different things in different fields, you know, like different areas. So what's happening is we are decontextualizing everything. We think there's one knowledge that can apply everywhere, and that's arrogance, what you're talking about, right? Or the other part of that arrogance is when we think that technology can solve all of our problems. So we're all the time, you know, science is feeding us this thing that technology will solve it. Don't worry about it. Technology will solve. So this is an extension of that arrogance. Totally, I agree with you.
Thank you.
But guys, I'm in a very cruel position here because I have to talk about the time right now. But Patricia, please, can you ask your question?
Hey, good to see you all.
Hi, Patricia.
Just wanted, it was not a question. It's more like an appreciation and like bringing key points that you said, Manish, around really going back to source. You know, I see we are all inventing each day new names and new methodologies for old things instead of going and deepening on what's the root of those old philosophies, you know? So I love that you brought that up. And also I can sense for us, like some people here mentioned about their struggles, and it's true. Like we are all struggling in building another system, the ones that are gaining in the current rules. Of course, they don't want that game to be stopped or threatened. And that's also where I see the power that community has, you know, that supports us to be able to say, no, I believe in my body, even if science is saying something different, and I'll go for that instead of listening to what the system is telling me I needed to believe. I believe, I just feel it's so important to have a community there to support us go that path. Just that. Good to be
Thank you so
again.
much. Wonderful to see you. Yeah, you guys are making miss Brazil. I have to make a trip there now. I've been missing since COVID, like
that's right.
Trip to Brazil. I'm missing you all.
We miss you a lot, either.
Come. We are ready to hug you.
Yes. Paulo was also talking here about Paulo Freire, right? He is saying that only a few people in Brazil don't like Paulo Freire, but he also recognizes that Paulo Freire was influenced by colonial thoughts and that he didn't take into account the indigenous cosmovision of the world. And now he is also saying that we need to have an education for wisdom and not only for the accumulation of information, right? Okay, so does anybody else has a question? We have maybe we can talk only one more.
Yeah. Or any reflections. I would like to hear what people are taking away also from conversation. It'd be very interesting.
Okay.
Like Patricia shared what she's taking. So maybe 3-4 people, I would love to hear what's alive for them. Can
I do an invitation here, because I'm seeing here Deepa, which is our she's an amazing person who is here at Uniquebradas right now to live a year of adventures. And I wish she could talk a little bit about this experience, because she knows both sides. So the side of the Ecoversities in India, and now the Ecoversities here in Brazil.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello, Deepa. So nice.
Hi,
Hey, you're with Nelson.
Yeah.
Hey, give that guy a kiss for me. Yeah, that's for me, Nelson.
You do a lot, brother.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. Deepa is having way too much fun there.
That is the intention.
I don't know if she's ever going to come back to India.
We'll see next year. Yeah.
Yes, share. Please share, guys. Please.
And Manu is also here. He's on the left side, and he is now here. So we are 3 of us from Unifluxo. And this is my 3rd month in Brazil. I'm here for a year. And under the umbrella of Gratitude-versity, I don't know if Manish mentioned that, but that's the Gratitude-versity that we are exploring through this experiment, to live in Brazil for a year or more on exploring different forms of capital like gifts, skill exchanges, barters, and just exploring another way without using money if it's possible, whenever it's possible. And I realize mostly it's possible. It's been possible in India so far for many, many years for me. And now this is a whole new playing field. And I'm thankful to many of you on this call who have played such a key role for me to come here and experience new language, culture, food, people, and so many interesting viewpoints that I'm not experiencing a polarity, but I'm experiencing a different kind of mergence between where I come from and what's happening here. And I feel we're so similar. Like I'm discovering words which are similar in Hindi and Portuguese. And I don't know if Manish discovered all these words. There's a long list of words which are similar in our languages, like tolia, veranda, maze, cha, kameez, and balti, chavi. I don't know how, I'm just amazed how alike we are. And like Manish said, the only place in the world that can match my hug is Brazil. And it is so true. And so it's, I deeply echo it that if we have to do only what we like to do, and automatically it serves everybody, and deadly goods is not even an option at all. Hasn't been an option for me for the last decade, and it's not an option because it is totally not working for anybody. Nobody, not for nature, land, even us. It doesn't work. It's only real-time interaction that works, and working together. So yeah, but I'm very happy to be here with all of them, learning so much every day. We go through our ups and downs, conflict, everything, but it's so beautiful because that is true. I mean, it is a mirage that if we say everything is conflict-free and let's not talk about it and let's hide all the elephants in the room and we have a zoo in the corner of the house with all the elephants, it doesn't work. We have to talk about all these things and live with it every day and go through it. And many years back, I always thought that communities will be built by the perfect me, the perfect people I will meet. When we will be perfect, we will make these communities, but we have to work with where we are today. All of us with our beautiful imperfections and skills and everything. So it's been, I mean, I'm very grateful that I'm here with so many people exploring this Gratitude-versity for a year. I mean, what a gift it is.
Yes. Great. You didn't learn one of the most important words.
Okay,
Gambia. Gambia. That's the most one of the
Gambia and yeah, Gambia. Of course, I was told it's one of your favorite days, but
yes.
one of my favorite words is Beleza. Marta.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, guys, I have put in the chat. In the chat, there are some of the links to all the not all, but some of the works that Manish is doing in the world. And also one of the links is for Uniquebradas, which is our Ecoversity here in Brazil, which is part of Manish's movement. Okay. Yes. And is there someone else who would like to give an insight, to give us an insight and tell us anything?
I want.
Yes, please.
Hey, Manish, so thank you, because like the inspiration to create like new possibilities, like not just battle with what we have, but create our own way. Like this just touched my heart, inspired me to keep going and knowing that we together can create something new for us, for the whole world, for the next generations. And this way we inspire like people around us to follow their heart and discover their truth too, and discover somehow that we share some truths, right? And the ancient people and the original people are here to remember us all this. So thank you, and we are in this together.
Yes,
thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And in the chat, Monica is celebrating you, Manish, and she is saying that you have been an inspiration for her to create new games that generate life. And also, she's talking about all the people involved in the Confestival, right? And she is celebrating us, thanking us, and also our beautiful work here made with Ayrton. He had a great time with us today doing the translation for you. And it's an immense joy to have you here, Ayrton.
Thank you so much, brother, for helping with that translation. I know it's so difficult.
Yeah.
I do translation in Hindi, so I could imagine it's a nightmare to translate myself.
Yes. So
I just shared one thing. Can you just show that screen? I would love to share this with everybody. You can maybe mail it to them. Just wanted to show that one thing I sent you on WhatsApp. One other thing.
Okay, I already showed once. Did you get it or not? Yeah.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah, there's one more. I will just a little bit of inspiration. But I think I just want to say that Dragon Dreaming is also, I see it as an ecoversity. It's an alternative university for really people to bring magic into the world. So, and it changes. I think what I've seen is, what happens is, part of what happens is the mainstream system sees all of these things. No, the other one, there's one more, Susanna, sees all of these things that we're working on as cute, like fringe little alternative hippie type cute things. And so part of this thing is to change that story, that these are serious you know, intellectual, spiritual, deep dives that we're doing, and they have significance for the larger well-being of life on the planet. And so what I've experienced is, you know, like this work I've been doing for 30 years, but when I used to talk about it, you know, I'd meet people in university professors or vice chancellors and things, and they would be like, oh, that's so nice, that's cute, whatever. But as soon as I started saying that I have Swaraj University, their whole body language, their whole listening capacity, everything shifted. You know, so like people, whether it's in companies or whether in universities, as soon as, if you started, you should just do this experiment that we have Dragon Dreaming University. Just see how it changes the conversation. Play around. You know, my favorite Brazilian is Cesse Pereira. So be a little bit, have some fun with it and say, I have this university for Dragon Dreaming, and see what happens with that, what opens up, and how people. And so let's try to, because what we're talking about is how do we move from just a mainstream, which is a centralized system, to many streams. The only hope for the planet I see is when we revalue many streams. And so if we have to call ourselves a university, let's call it, and let's play with it. And if that makes people want to engage and see things differently, then why not? Let's try it, you know, because I don't want to keep, you know, I don't see our our work that we are all doing as fringe or, you know, extra add-on. It is core. It is core for it, and it's one of the core movements that is the most, you know, most important movements for the well-being of all life right now. So maybe we need to tell the story differently. And this is what I just wanted to share you this little graphic we made. So one is of how you can start your own Ecoversity. So choose a powerful name, get together with 5 friends, identify 10 inspiring mentors, take 3 questions which are really important to you and your community, and find a kind of meeting space and a rhythm, and get 3 elders to say, you know, we are guides and mentors, protectors for this project. And you can start your own university. And I think this is the future of education, is that people will start doing this more and more. They'll first start to say, we're not failures. There's nothing wrong with us. Like the system is all telling us you're failures. You're something is wrong with you. You don't want to be in the rat race competition. So it's something is wrong with you. You don't want to follow the colonial thing. Something is wrong with you. You know, so let us start to say that there's a whole, you know, like we can be much more playful. I would want to invite the word playful into all of our work, much more playful and imaginative into the work we're doing. And that's the spirit of Ecoversities. So thank you so much, everybody.
Ok, pessoal. Chegou o momento de ir. Se vocês quiserem colocar no chat, if you want to put in the chat how you are feeling right now, you can put it. Try to be brief. You can put just 1 word if you want, right? And this will be the way we end this meeting, this beautiful meeting today. Okay? Yeah, people are hopeful and blessed. I am inspired. Oh, somebody is is feeling wonderful, inspired, excited, happy. Mm-hmm. Inspired, but not only that. Yeah, Paulo was talking a little bit earlier about all the ideas he has for new ecoversities. He is embracing a lot of them here in Brazil, and he is truly inspired and doing things all the time. Nelson is bringing love and hope. Nelson, I love you so much.
Me too. Love you, love you, love you.
Yeah. Guys, Abundance. Yes. Such a beautiful word. Yeah.
Great.
So, can we call it for a day? Can we finish right now? Yeah. No, we don't want to go, but we have to. Oh,
Yes,
there
I'm
is an
hoping
Instagram
to
here.
also-
Paulo has an Instagram profile, Unicrao, right? So people can follow there. Did everybody take all the other links here? Yes, Ayrton, thank you for remembering. We have to take a peek. Yeah, can everybody open the?
There's so many ecoversities already in Brazil. Universidade Quebradas is there. Illich, Warriors Without Weapons is there. The Circusversity is here. There's there's so many beautiful projects. So wonderful to see those all. I think you should send everyone a list of all of them. I'm getting a little bit tired. It's 11:30 at night, so my brain isn't working to give all the names. But there's so many amazing things happening there. I really congratulate you all. I want to celebrate with you all of how many amazing things that happening in Brazil. It's a big inspiration for me also, and so really thank you so much. Deep gratitude and love to all of you. Keep up the amazing work.
We are going to join us together here in Brazil. We are going to plan a meeting for all the ecoversities that are coming up in Brazil, right? So let's do that. Let's do it. This is going to happen as soon as possible. All right. And so let's take this beautiful picture. Ayrton, did you take it? Let's do it. So everybody with their everybody open their. Sophia and Prensa, yeah.
We can all give a heart. We can all share our heart.
Everybody give a heart. I think Sophia is coming. Yeah, let's just do it again. Once more. Yes. Yeah, and also with the dragons. Yeah. All right, guys.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. So
I put my email. Please feel free to reach out, and would love to continue the conversation and learn about all the amazing things you're doing as well. Thank you so much.
Yes, please. We keep in touch. Thank you. Was nice to have you in the Confestival. Yes. Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so very much.
You can check the other sessions of Confestival also, okay? Bye-bye.
Bye.
Gratidão. Gratidão. Parabéns mais uma vez pela tradução. Gratidão. Muito obrigado.
Gratidão, querido.
Ele teve trabalho hoje, hein? Ele suou. Ayrton, volta aqui pro...
Gratidão.
Gente, muito obrigado. Pode parar de gravar agora.